Mixing with Mike plugin of the week is from the Plugin Alliance. It's the Lindell 80 series. This is the audio examples video. If you're looking to understand the features and signal flow and how all the switches and knobs work, then you will find that in the features video, so check that out. Otherwise, for this, we'll dig right into audio, and I will obviously point out some things and go over some of the different settings and how they're valuable, but in the setting of audio examples. Music is courtesy of Letters from Jet. Song is Find My Way Gone. You can go to lettersfromjet.com to check them out if you are interested. So let's dive right in. So what I have here is the bass module setup. And essentially, if you didn't watch the features video, just very quick overview. This is basically an 8028 series emulation of the Neve consoles from the 1970s. So the 80 series Neves range from about 1969 or 70 or so up until the 8078 console, which was released in 1978. So during that more or less 10-year period, you had a whole series of consoles which were just ridiculous, just off the hook, and the 8028 is no exception to that. Primarily fitted with the 1073 module, so you have the 1073 preamp and EQ, and then there was also a 1084 EQ, which is also a 3-band with a high Q switch and a low pass filter. That's the basics of it. What's different from the original is that this actually, Lindell added in a compression module. So this is the actual compressor circuit from the 2254. So there's a compressor and a limiter circuit. They grab just the compression circuit, put it in here, so that becomes available to you with a number of features. And they've also added in a gate module, which follows that. So the signal flow is left to right, all goes through an output fader, and then you see metering for input-output, compression, gain reduction, and gain reduction. Also has the TMT fitted in. That's your quick nickel tour of this, so let's just dive right in. We'll get right to it and go through a bunch of the different things that it can do. So in essence, what you have here is something that is a Neve console. So I put together a little bit of a rocker, blues rocker song here, and I'm going to start off by just playing this down from the top, and I'll kind of A-B it in and out so just so you can get an overall flavor of this. We're going to be going over primarily the channel strip, but we'll also take a quick look at the bus output amp, the 1272 bus output amp. That also adds a nice character to the sound. So here we go. Let's have a listen. I just wanted to give you a little quick flavor. It's obviously very different. Not all the gains are matched up maybe as well as they could be, but more or less to give you a sense of like how open and big that you can make the sound with it here. And that's kind of what makes the Neve consoles from the 1970s so special. It's just like an incredible presence and openness and just clarity, especially in all the mid-range. Especially the low mids, just ridiculous. All right, so let's get into it here. I'm going to start by just kind of going over a bit of a just simple thing with the bass. And probably might primarily start with the EQ here for this. To me, one of my favorite EQs that I pretty much use on almost every bass sound that I do is a 1073. It just seems to be just like a perfectly fit glove for almost every bass sound. And it just brings out like the right harmonic distortion if you drive it the right way, and it kind of cuts through the speaker even at low volumes. So more or less, I just want to point that out here pop with the EQ in and out and just kind of give you a sense of what that's all about. So let me skip over to a section where we got some bass, and here we go. It may not be so obvious here when you hear it more or less in the context of the mix. So here, let me just do this. You'll kind of hear a lot more of what it's doing here.
Gotta find my way home.
And pretty much the power of this, and really there's a bit of it here that's in the compression as well in the whole channel. So it's not just primarily the EQ, but what you get is just like a richness of warmth, and it just makes the sound just cut through, gives it like a nice edge. Now, I didn't really drive this. I was playing around a little bit with the Unity settings, because one of the things you can do, and the bass is already a bit overdriven, so this may not be the best example here, but with the Unity, I can actually drive this to get some more distortion from it. So you get a sense for what that can do there. The Unity switch just makes sure that the gain stays clean, or the same. Basically keeps the same input-output level. So as you drive more input level, if this is off and you push this up, you're going to get more level. You could also drive the harmonic distortion from here. Probably a bit more subtle well, by comparison to driving the preamp, like driving a line level signal into a mic preamp and just overdriving it purely there. So very cool. One of the things that I really like also about the compressor is working with the fast attack. So I believe the fast attack is less than a millisecond, which I always liked for bass. Especially with an auto release, kind of doing like a broadcast limiter, which is where the 2254 comes from. It was originally like a broadcast limiter, and it just happens to work really, really well for music, especially when you drive it hard. So it's a compressor where it's not unnatural for you to have 6, 9, 10 dB of gain reduction as just part of the sound. It's kind of what makes it really work, and it's just like a good range for it. Especially, I'm usually in the, with this one, usually in the 3 to 5 dB range or 3 to 6 dB range in terms of gain reduction. And it just seems to just pull a sound together. Now, with this, one of the cool things, if you want to bring more warmth out of the sound, go higher in ratio. If you want it to be a little bit more transparent sounding, go lighter in ratio. Let's see if I can show that off a little bit here. Kind of like the lighter ratio here, although that's not what I ended up at. Normally I go for something that's a little bit richer, but this has like a nice openness to it. Let's see what that sounds like on the track. like the 4-to-1 better inside of the rest of the track, just giving it a little bit of warmth. I'm only doing it on one of the channels, so you're hearing a little bit more with the parallel channel that's also right there. Let's switch over to kick drum. Now, when you work with the EQ in particular, there are some things to consider if you're used to working with, like, normal parametrics on the low end. And so part of working with either the 1084 EQ or the 1073 EQ is the fact that if you want to, say, boost something like the fundamental of the kick drum, where normally you might have a parametric EQ there, you could just kind of pop it in, drop it in around 60 hertz or so, and crank away. With this, because it's a shelving EQ, normally what you'll end up having to do is you'll end up having to boost in on the sound. So let me just see. This is actually a close mic on here, where you can kind of boost more and then chase it with a filter on the bottom to tighten it up. And then you can get the attack frequency if you need it from here, right, on the boost here. Or dip away in the low mids if you need to tighten up the low end more. And with the 1084 EQ, you can work with or without the high Q switch. And whatever approach that you like, because you can also get some of the top end from up here, the snap of the kick drum. Right, so that dip into 360 really helps there. But you can also listen with this, which is really cool when you switch it to the 1073. It eliminates, obviously, the low pass filter, which we're not using, and obviously then this becomes fixed at 12K here, and you lose the high Q switch. But sometimes just this quick comparison allows you to kind of make a quick choice about which one you like better. That's a nice improvement there, so you can see how quick and easy that is to work with. And then also here, with playing with the compression here, same kind of thing, where we can get a little bit more consistent, active compression. The fast recovery is really helpful for kind of, really pumping and breathing something, but that fast attack kind of sharpens the attack. It's not clipping it entirely, which is kind of cool. And then sometimes the Nouveau filter will help to kind of smooth out the compression if you don't want it to pump and breathe as much. So you can hear how, like, you have a ton of different tonal coloration options that are available to you here within this. So, all right, so let's move on to a couple of other things. The guitars. This is a place where, Neves, pretty much with everything, but really the 1073, the 1084 EQs, the compression, the whole deal will just really, really, really shine with guitars, just getting like a just ripping tone out of it. So here we So just EQing the guitar on the left, I can actually bring the two of these up over here. High Q switch really creates this very cool kind of focus in a similar way to what the proportional Q does, like on an API. Just that tightened Q, that tightened bandwidth, that also seems to give you a little bit more boost at that frequency with the tighter Q. Okay. So let's hear that in context with everything. I gotta move this over here, just hit the solos. I'll say where I was, but you could hear again, like just how shifting those frequencies kind of into those tonal centers, you can just get a really amazing, just tone and edge, just super fast. And that's really where one of the many places where working with an EVQs is just amazing. Also on the low end, just bringing in the body. In this case, I brought in a little 200. I could chase it with the high pass filter down here, same kind of on this end. Where I can bring in some body and warmth to kind of match the tonal shaping up in the mid-range frequencies. And yeah, just ridiculous. So I like both EQs on this end, but here again, we can kind of just do a quick comparison here just to see which way, if this works a little bit better. Let's just do it this way because I can switch them back and forth here on the AB. So let's see here, the 1073 EQ versus the 1084 EQ. On the guitar on the right, I actually like the 1073 better. On the one on the left, I like the 1084 better. Just like sometimes this doesn't always work because on this end we are losing the low pass filter, which I did put in on over here. But that's not the end of the world. You could always chase it with another EQ if you needed to. Yeah, amazing. All right, so let's go over to the vocal and kind of pop into that a little bit. So on the vocal side, this has already got built into the distortion, into it. So and actually the EQs here are linked. So when I change one, it's changing them on both. So I just have a little parallel here, just to give me a little bit of edge. And what I have here is a fast attack and kind of a medium release, I guess. 1084 EQ. But I'm not using the high pass, so we could check that out. Also, I'm at 12K, so we can kind of hear what this sounds like, 1073 versus 1084. Let's see. How about I go over here, unmute these guys.
Well, you better keep it down now. I think old man just got home. Yeah.
Could be wrong about the EQ thing here. Let me just see here. Nope, they're independent. Okay, so here we go.
Well, you better keep it down now. I think old man just got home. Yeah, you better keep it down now. I think old man just got home.
Right, two very cool options that see how if one works a little bit better than the other in the context, and just want to go over a couple of other things here.
You better keep it down now. I think old man just got home. Yeah, you better keep it down now. I think old man just got home. Now I'm sitting by the window, gotta find my way home.
A little bit more clarity there with the 1073, which I kind of like. Again, we lose the low pass filter, which I wasn't using. We don't have the high Q switch, which we lose there. But hey, it it basically works. So normally I would put like a little filter there on the bottom end or something like that. It's 18 dB per octave, so they're pretty tight, good for tightening up on the bottom end. The one other thing that you can kind of do with this is work in parallel to kind of bludgeon the vocal. This kind of, or with any particular sound. But let's just demonstrate something here for a second. If I wanted to do this working with a nuke, and you'll see the compression kind of go a little crazy here. All right, so here we go.
Well, you better keep it down now. I think old man just got home.
All right, so you got a little automatic makeup gain there.
Well, you better keep it down now. I think old man just got home. Yeah, you better keep it down now. I think old man just got home.
And then I can play with the ratio here.
Well, you better keep it down now. I think old man just got home. Yeah, you better keep it down now. I think old man just got home.
Right, so we could drive that pretty heavy, and if I want, I can mix in a little dry and wet.
Well, you better keep it down now. I think old man just got home. Yeah, you better keep it down now. I think old man just got home. Now I'm sitting by the window, gotta find my way home. You know he'll kill me dead now if he catches me around. Yeah, you know he'll kill me dead now if he catches me around. Kiss me one more time, babe. I gotta find my way home.
So you could get a basic idea there of what that's all about, and gives you a lot of flexibility. You could use this for all kinds of things. Like for example, right here, just with the kick and the snare, I have this set up as like just a parallel crush just on the kick and the snare, actually on the toms as well. A little bit of EQ to kind of juice it up a little bit, but. stereo that just, it's very easy to kind of blend that in and give yourself like a nice, tone. I actually did a couple of parallel chain things here with the mix bus, just to also, where I run a little bit of a parallel, and I could try some different, shaping, tonal shaping EQ, so I can mix in a little bit of character, a little bit of body into the mix. So just use the nuke setting, and rather than putting it on the mix bus and doing the wet dry here, I could do something where I could just sort of blend it in parallel, and also works out incredibly well. So let's check out a little bit of this. I got two of them here, and let's see if I call up the other one here. Just, getting rid of some of the boxiness that's in here. I think I have a very slight boost up on the top end. No filters. Very little on this end. It's really mostly all in the nuke mode here, just to get some compression. On this one, I think I went a little bit with the EQ, 1073, boosting like 3K for some edge. Actually backing off on some of the top end here to get a little bit more mid-range body out of it. Nothing on the filters on this end, so pretty minimal. But again, just to get character here with the nuke mode. It's just like amazing the way that just kind of brings in presence and depth, You
better keep it down now. I think old man just got home. Yeah, you better keep it down now. I think old man just got home. Now I'm sitting out the window, gotta find my way home.
So there's also with this, I mean, there's so many ways that you can kind of run these parallels, so many options in terms of the way that you use it. The one other thing that I've found to be very, very, very cool with this is using this in the output bus, the 1272 amp at the output, just for like, basically it's like summing amp. And this gives a great coloration here. I happen to have it just laid out here on the stems, just to kind of bring in a little bit of body. So I just want to A-B that in and out, just so you can kind of hear the depth that brings in.
You better keep it down now. I think old man just got home. Yeah, you better keep it down now. I think old man just got home. Now I'm sitting out the window, gotta find my way home.
You could also work with these to kind of drive a bit of harmonic distortion. I'll kind of exaggerate it here for a second, just so we can hear the effect of that in and out.
You better keep it down now. I think old man just got home. Yeah, you better keep it down now. I think old man.
Be a little bit much, but the idea is great. And you could also, if you don't want to use it on stems, or you don't set up your mix that way, you could also just use it on the mix bus, which also adds in some character. I found that when I've done comparisons with these types of things, I most often end up picking one or the other. Either put it here on the stems or put it on the mix bus and see whichever one translates best. In this case, it just kind of everywhere I put this. I haven't tried experimenting with putting it on every channel to see how much that helps, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's amazing. I think you got a bit of that already because it's the same amp circuit there, same transformer circuit. So the emulation is going to sound probably very similar, especially if you're not driving it at all. But let's see what it sounds like here.
You better keep it down now. I think old man just got home. Yeah, you better keep it down now. I think old man just got home.
To me, it's pretty amazing. Just have fallen in love with this just so fast. It's I don't know. It's one of these things where if you've worked on the real hardware, you understand like the beauty and the power of the console itself, and I don't know that anybody's really captured it very well because mostly what you get are these sort of just bits and pieces of it. You just get the 1073 EQ, and there's tons of emulations out there, and but you don't get the full thing, or you kind of have to piece things together by putting together different plugins to sort of construct what would be a channel strip. And but to have it all here like this together with all of these added features, with the nuke, with the switch between the 1084 and the 1073, and it just all the different options in terms of tonal coloration and everything, is just amazing. So I'm, to me, I'm completely blown away with this. Love it, and absolutely highly recommend it. So if you made it this far through the video, then yeah, I'm sure you're pretty much sold at this point anyway. But there you have it. Highly recommended. Get it. Plugin of the week, coming from the Plugin Alliance in Lindell, the 80 series. And don't forget, Letters from Jet, Find My Way Gone, lettersfromjet.com is where the music is coming from. If you're interested, check them out. All right, thanks for tuning in, and here's the plugin of the week.